Hello, check 1 2. Well, here we are. Rocking and rolling on a Saturday. Planning to make a video here, or a map here, a quick lumber mill. This is just an idea I had. I was actually watching somebody on YouTube play a game where they created a bunch of, where they were building like industrial stuff. And I thought, hey, that'd be fun to make a D&D map that features that sort of thing. And so that's what I'm going to do. I don't have a game necessarily for this. I use these sometimes for games that I do privately just for fun, not on our podcast, which if you don't know, I'm the Dungeon Master for the Hired Swords podcast that I do with friends. We record every other week and post episodes every week, so pretty fun. It's set in a world I've made and a little bit. Oh, my mouse pad's moving around. I think it's because there's paper on it. That's better. And yeah, it's the world I made. Homebrew world, homebrew adventure. Just got out of a place called Lonely Hill, so kind of fun. But I don't usually make maps on here that they will see in game because of, spoilers. Because I have players that sometimes watch these things that I make, so and people who listen to the show. But anyway, this will be mess with the rotation here, give this a less uniform look. You know what I mean? Back to this is all background. Yeah, so I'm going to be making this map that's got some lumber mill vibes to it. Something a little bit, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Something that's a little bit industrial looking. One of my thoughts too is I'd like to do something that causes my players to have to interact with the surrounding environment a little bit, because that makes things a little interesting. I just had a combat with another group I play with, or actually it was some of the same people, but then other people who were different, and there was stuff like, traps in a dungeon, but also like you push this button and the room starts to shift and things turn to opposite directions, causing fire to do this and that. So, and if you push the button, it stops, or the room was like sucking everybody down into a hole. You push a button and the suckage stops. So just something that makes people have to think a little bit about the room they're in and what consequences could be. So here's what I'm going to do here. It's already turned on, but I'm going to use random stamps. So I'm going to change the color of these a little bit, though. I'll show you that in a second. I'm going to use random stamps so that when I click, you'll see I click it, and then whenever I go ready to click the other one, it changes between the three over and over. I've also got random rotation on, so the trees won't look like they're, standing in the same direction every time. But if I go ahead and change the color, if I go to filters and hue, I want them to look a little bit more like the grass. I figure like usually, not always, but often, the place, the somewhere you're at, the trees and the grass and all that kind of has the same coloration. I live in a place that's very green this time of year. We've had so much rain, so I've been able to see that in action. Oh, and again, this is a lumber camp, so trees are going to be here, but there's going to be a large chunk of this area or lumber mill, not lumber camp. A large chunk of this area where there are going to be trees that are no longer living or standing. So that's going to be a part of this as well. So let's go back to trees here. I'm going to put some of these dying trees up because they need to be a little bigger. And this is also going to be random. Some of these still have leaves on them, but I think it fits a little better. I'm also going to put them at a lower layer so they'll sit under these trees like that. See, this one's going to be huge though, so I'm going to put this out here by itself. It's a little smaller. It's not quite as big as these other trees. That sort of thing. So some of these trees, these more like evergreen types, are a lot more large. And then I didn't turn on the grid. I often turn on the grid because it helps with, for me, scaling. So you can see this is a 40 by 30 grid. And this tree is like 25 feet across from at the base where the branches come out. That's pretty large. I'm going to change this to 30 by 23, making this about a 15 to 20 foot across tree. This one's 15 feet. I don't know, that's still pretty huge. Let's go 25. It's going to be 25 by 19. Kind of obnoxious that it's 19, but it works. When you drop it in a roll 20, it doesn't matter. As long as you put the right numbers in, it doesn't matter that the numbers aren't kind of, it doesn't matter if they're round numbers or not. And then this layer here, I'm going to put the grid. I always put the grid the lowest layer possible. This is like one of my nitpicky, I guess, pet peeves, if you will, is when people make these maps and the grid is on top of everything. And I'm like, well, the grid should be sitting in the ground. I also like to make it very transparent. So it exists, it's there, but it's not a feature in the map. So when I put it in Roll20, I'll make the opacity of the Roll20 grid completely clear so you don't see it. It'll just be used to locate the tokens within the squares, and it locks them onto those squares or snaps them to the squares. But these squares are small, and they're not small. They're faded and they're light and they exist, but it doesn't take away from the features of the map that I've made. Even though I don't spend a ton of time making crazy intense maps that are just so, I don't know, that are so elaborate. That's the word I'm trying to think of. I don't make the most elaborate maps. Those are too close together. I'll fix that in a second. See, those are too close together because there's no way those trees would have grown to be like these trees and the trunk's been that close, right? It's impossible. You got to put them a little bit apart. However, like these trees are from this side to this side. This is like 10 feet. So I'd have to go about another 10 feet to put another tree, right? Or it's not going to make sense unless it's a lot smaller or whatever. So I do that. And I don't worry about putting like the tree stumps and the other features in the grid. The grid is just used for measuring and snapping the player tokens in Roll20. It's not a part other than measuring. I don't use it as inspiration or too much for my map. Sometimes I do when I'm building a building because that would have been like actual construction that would have had thought behind it. But this is a natural growing, natural occurring forest. And so this would be, yeah, this would not have had, you know, a design intent to the pattern of growth of these trees, right? So I try not to build as if it's on purpose, you know, too much, other than maybe it feeling natural, like the clumping. I notice trees tend to clump. Their roots always sync up. In fact, trees literally communicate with each other in a sense with their roots. And so they clump up, they clump together. That's a pretty natural thing. I learned that from Miss Frizzle on freaking Magic School Bus, you know? So I gotta use her knowledge, or else what am I even doing? And then for this lumber mill, I'm gonna make this a little more of a like established mill, not a camp or something like that. So I'm thinking about using these roofs. I don't really necessarily like the slate roofs. They seem a little more city-like. This is probably outside the city. Something like this. These tiles, well, these are clay, more clay feeling, huh? What else can I find here? Marble roof, definitely not. I need some wooden roof. Dirty shingles. You may hear my kids. They're playing video games upstairs. But I don't really mind. This is my life, right? I live with children. I'm a dad. That's what happens. These are like pretty elven roofs. Bark roof makes sense, but these are a little too ornate for what I'm going for, if you know what I mean. Let's see what else we can do here. And I'm going live here. I don't think I'm going to get very many live viewers. I don't have a lot of subscribers that would have been notified. I'm not on Twitter right now, so I'm not sharing because Twitter is a dumpster fire right now. So instead, I'm just going to share this after the fact. I'm just live because it's easier than producing and editing a video, right? I think that's a great reason to go live. Because when I'm done with this, it's done. And it's available to watch. So that's why I'm doing it live like this. We're doing it live! Let's see. I would like a more wooden roof. This looks like it could be wooden, so it may just have to work. These are cool, but I know it says marble, but it doesn't have to be marble. Scaled roofs. Dragon. I just need a couple buildings, because this is a lumber mill. Let's do this. And this is where the creativity comes in here. I'm gonna take one of these here, slate roofs. One of these here slate roofs. This is probably gonna be a good one here. Let's make this kind of down in the corner. I like that. Let's rotate it a bit. A little more. There we go. It's a little too much. That's better. I'm gonna literally put it right in the corner. Boom. I'm gonna put it below that tree. See? That tree's tall. It's up above the roof. But I'm also gonna change the color of this to feel a little more wood-like. Oh, there you go. See, I like that. I'm gonna make the saturation go down a little higher, I guess, not down. Give it that brown. Turn down the brightness. There you go. That looks to me more like a wooden roof. You know, so even though it was slate, I've just messed with the color and it gave me the vibe I wanted. And so I'm going to do that. Now, I don't know if they have any saws or anything like that. Let's see what they've got here. I'm going to type in saw. See what I get. Floor saw. See, I could create what I want from this. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with a table. So I'm going to create something that isn't in the I don't know, token list or whatever. I want this to be a little darker wood. I'm gonna rotate it this way. I'm gonna have a couple of these is I'm creating basically a... Now let's do another one before I change away from the table. The 2 wooden tables, they're going to have saws. Hopefully I have one that goes that way. Yeah, that's what I want right there. You see, that saw is going to be right in the middle of that table. And I'm going to rotate this one so it doesn't look like exactly the same. Oops, I rotated the previous one. So I'm going to put this down and then rotate it. I think I'm going to put it like that too. And then I'm going to rotate it around. And then I'm going to move this one up. I'm just zooming in with like mouse wheel. Actually 2 fingers on my mouse because I have a magic mouse because I'm using my iMac for this. Yeah, so got a couple table saws. That's very lumber mill-ish, but I need some piles of logs and stuff. So let's do logs. We're gonna get to some beautifying here in a minute. So split logs, that's a great start. So let's do them straight like this. A little large for what I'm doing. Based on the size of everything else, that log is very big. We're gonna just, boom, it's split. This one's in the middle of being split. I'm gonna actually put it. Okay, so this is gonna be a little tricky, but I think we can do it. So I'm gonna put the table on, it's on -1. I'm gonna put the saw on +1. I'm gonna put the lumber on 0. So we've got, yeah, we've got the saw cutting through this piece of wood here that's being split. This one can go like that. We're gonna do the same thing. So this is on level 1. Table is level -1. And that is level 0. So, like, literally splitting through this piece of lumber. And then we're gonna go back to our logs. And we're just gonna put some chopped ones over here. Maybe a little larger. Let's randomize these. Not randomize the rotation because I want it to feel more like a stack and not like a random pile. But we're gonna make them a little bigger. Let's go up to 60, see what that feels like. Let's go up to 75. There we go. Yeah, we're just stacking this lumber. Get the vibe that it's cut and stacked just like that. Let's I'm gonna remove some of those and replace them with smaller ones so that we get a little more size differentiation. I think that's what word. Maybe feels like it. So let's go here and we're gonna get this down to that 60. I like that really good, and then we'll, like I said, make it feel a little more like a natural sizes. That doesn't look natural. Those are too evenly spaced. There we go. That feels a little bit more like stacked wood. And then I'm going to put some non-split logs, big ones, over here. And I'm actually happy with that rotation of that. No. Unrandom. Give me that same vibe we had. Yeah, like that. So we got some logs stacked there as well. Cool, lumber mill with some active work. Let's put, or not work, active saws that would work for people. And split logs there. We've got the building. And then let's put, what else could we do in this lumber mill? Got logs. Got trees. We're gonna help with the, we're gonna do some more with the, that's cool, broken wood walls. It kind of just feels like random piles of branches and stuff. 2. I don't know. That was just an idea. Put it under there. You know, inspired by the tokens themselves sometimes. Let's make them down a couple layers so that they sit under the tree branches. Yeah, like that. And oh, that's a cool round bit. Let's do that around this tree like that. Oh, look at that. See, yeah, piles of you know, just waste, like stuff you have left over after cutting down trees. Just kind of piled around. I like that. That's cool. Yeah, and then what else could we do here? Let's see. As I take a peek at the screen, make sure everything's working okay. All right, all right. Let's see. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. Looks like you guys are maybe looking at a small version of this map. Yeah, so we've got all that. We got that. I'm going to probably now go ahead and go to some like not beautifying necessarily, but just decorating. And let's make some dirt path kind of situation. Make it smaller. There you go. Probably about 5 feet. I usually make my paths about 5 feet, and then or about 10 feet wide, and then I kind of close them in from there by adding layers on top. I'm going to make this a little bit transparent. Let's see what it looks like. Assume there's a door here. I need to make it soft. Yeah, so assume there's a door here, and this is very common place for them to walk around. So this is not going to have much grass growing because people walk around here a lot. Also, they like to come over to this. They come over to this area, and they grab logs from here, right? So this is all pretty worn down from the grass. It's not real grass. And then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this kind of the pathway that maybe players, if this is used as a battle map, players make their way in from this direction. And I'm just kind of being a little bit willy-nilly with this because it's a natural path. It's not. Oh, and you know what? That is too big. I don't like that. So I'm going to use the size tool here to just shrink down the pattern. Again, it makes it look a lot more redundant when you do that. But if you don't use it, you know, as, I don't know, if you don't use it as all over the whole place, then it kind of takes away from the redundancy of it. I'm going to say that around most of these trees, there's a little bit of dirt from the people walking around and cutting them down, but it's not destroyed by it. And this is kind of played naturally by the other brush we used. It already kind of gives you that feeling of people maybe walking around here a little bit. But this is all very, very worn from people working in this lumber mill. And now I'm going to go back to my green here. And I'm going to make it even soft, or even more transparent. And I'm just going to touch up the edges of this to give it a more natural. To me, it just makes it look a little more natural. And even some spots where the roadway is, you know, almost gone just because it's the pathway, because it's just worn down or grown over because it's not traveled as much. You know, and there you go. This is going to kind of maybe between there. They don't go through there very often. And so, I don't know. Just little thoughts like that. That's kind of cool, I guess. You've got your, and then one thing I'm definitely going to do is I'm going to move these trunks off of the path I made, because obviously if there was a path there to begin with, there were no trees there, right? So, but these tree stumps, I guess, I've been saying trunks, but these stumps wouldn't be right in the path. We walked through the trees to get here to build all this, and so yeah. And then maybe they grow these trees, you know, they grow them, and in that growing them, they're able to chop more down. It's warning me to save my work here. I better do that. Lumber mill. What is our, I think I'm gonna be able to look. I think it's, what do we make it? 25 by 19. I like to put the size in the name of the map so that when I'm exporting it and then importing it into Roll20, I don't have to go back and look and remember, because if you do plenty of maps or do a lot of maps, then you easily forget what you're trying to do. And then I'm going to show you one more thing as we wrap this up, because, and here's what I was saying earlier, like, my players are very creative when we play Dungeons and Dragons. I have kids on one group, and my other group is just really, really creative group of adults. It's super fun. But they're going to use some of this stuff, right? Like I may have somebody jump up on this roof to take shots. Somebody may hop across all these tree stumps. They get up in the trees, or maybe try to trick a monster into getting on one of these saws or something. And so, use telekinesis to lift logs and throw them at people. Like all this stuff, I'm thinking, what can I put on here that my players could use? And you know what? Let's in that same vein, before I wrap this up, let's do an axe here. Oh, there's no axes. I could probably do. Well, let me look. There might be an axe here that, for some reason, is named something random. Because that happened. Cart might be a good idea too, right? Because often, how else are they going to get this stuff where they need it to go? They're going to need a cart. So let's go down to 50. The horse cart. We're going to just let it rest along the roadside right here. So he can pile the split logs on there. Pile up the split logs whenever he's done. And after he piles them on, he just rolls his cart up to the town. Which is maybe it's just a couple hours or an hour's walk that direction, not too far. So, but he lives here. He does his little lumber mill work and sells his lumber at the town. And so yeah. Anyway, all this stuff is stuff players can use. Players can be a part of all this. I wasn't able to find an axe very easily, which is fine, whatever. But one last thing as I finish this up. Sometimes I will make multiple maps that are exactly the same, besides a couple other options. In one of my campaigns, I have this like dark mist moving over everything. I know, real original, right? Moving over everything, trying to destroy the world, basically. And so I will save the map, and so I've saved it, but then I'll create another version of the map, and I'll go here and I'll say save as clone, but first I'll do what I want. So if I go here and I type in fog, there we go. There's creeping fog here, right? So I can make this large, and I can change the color of it. Let's go with purple, and then let's lower the saturation and lower the brightness and make it this dark fog, right? And I can just put this fog everywhere. I'm gonna make it go up and I'm not doing this real carefully right now because I'm just showing you. And then this whole battle can be fought in the midst of the mist, right? In the middle of all this fog and stuff happening. And I can go to there. I would go to here, save as clone, and I would just say lumber mill fog. And I hit an extra key, but whatever, I fat fingered it. And so now I've saved the same location, but I've added a feature that based on a random roll or based on a story element that comes into play or something. I do have a separate roll table that I use. So if they come into an encounter, I roll on this other table to see if the mist creeps in or not. And so this would be my map that's available there, and I would put it on top of the other map if before I put the players on the map to fight in Roll20, I would put the other map, the regular map without the fog, behind this one, so that this is the map we're having the battle on. But they would both be loaded into the same place on Roll20, ready to go. And so, yeah, it works pretty well. Maybe sometime I'll show you how to do all of that, but you could do that. And then another thing you can do is I go back to my maps and go to the original. See, they're both saved there. One's got the word fog in it, so even if I can't see the map, I know what it is. But so here's back to the original. Another thing you can do is you can do some filters, and these filters are pretty neat. I use them a little bit, but they sure have added a lot of cool stuff, right? So you can add a fog this way. So there's a horror landscape that you can add that just gives it this like, I don't like that very much. It's not very great. And then I'm gonna delete this one. Then you can, but you can add these other filters, rays, spotlights, nighttime. This one you can turn into black and white. You can do some blur, a tilt shift. Sometimes I will do like a gloom, especially right now because I'm in a like they're going into this place that's just extra intense as far as the gloominess goes. And yeah, and then you can make it not as intense or more intense, and you can lower it on take it down on some levels so the gloom will just sit on the ground and everything, but not the trees, whatever. So that's really cool that they've added that feature. So there's the main map, and then there it is with the gloom and doom filter. So you could play with that, see what's going on in your game, and again, you can do the same thing I did before. Here's overcast, just a little faded because there's no sunshine right now. Or you can go to and do the night one. I've used the night one a few times because it just looks a lot. It's to me, it's cool because you can still see it and everything. And another cool thing you can do, I'm going further than I wanted to, but if you go here to these and you go to, if you go to light, maybe you want to put, let's see, maybe we're going to put some lights on here. Not fey lights necessarily, but here, let's just say we put these sconces on the building. So let's put this one here. Right? And another one here. I'm just going to do 2 for now. And then I'm going to bring those down a layer so they sit underneath that roof. There we go. Because I want them to look like they're on the wall. But there's light, but it's nighttime, so I'm like, well, what the heck? Like, yeah, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the light feature, or the light here, not the item itself as much, but this light down here. I'm going to put that on here. Boom. And there. And I'm going to bring those up some layers. Put those on layer 4. Or 5. Perfect. Layer 5. Because here's what that's done now. If you look at the filter, the night texture, that's on layer 4, right? So this is on layer 5. Well, on layer 5, it's sitting above that filter that is making everything look like night. So it makes your lights look even brighter. And that's a pretty cool feature, a pretty cool way to use that. And this would be even neater as you can give it a little bit of a spread that way off the side of that wall, right? Cool, look at that. That's neat to me. It's glowing off the side. There's a little bit of light shining around here. And otherwise, you've got your nighttime map. So I'm going to save this as a clone too. I'm going to say lumber mill night. And now see, on the other map, I didn't have those lights attached. So I'd go put those lights on there in the daytime map and take away the glow because it's daytime. It wouldn't be as intense, but I'm not going to worry about that because this is actually a map that I don't even know if I'm going to use. I'm just making it for y'all. For all you guys. So anyway, there you go. There is a few ideas on a lumber mill map and just throwing that together in, gosh, how long have I been on here? I've been doing this for 34 minutes. So it didn't take that long, and this is a map that would be fun to fight on. There's a lot of stuff in the way, a lot of things that would keep you from being able to take shots. You know, if you got your bow and arrow and you're up in the if you're back in the trees, you got to get around to get line of sight to shoot. Just stuff to make things a little more interesting in combat, so it's not just like run up, smack, 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 dead monster, you know, or dead bandits or whatever. So there you go. I'll probably put this up on Google Drive, so if you want to download it, you can. But thanks so much for watching and for all of your support. And go ahead and like and subscribe on this channel because I like doing these when I can. I appreciate comments. I've had several comments, people saying thanks for the videos or that they enjoyed certain bits that I've done on the videos, and so I just wanted to say thanks for that. It means a lot. So we'll see you guys later, and tell your friends.